4 sticky little boys. On one Tuesday evening, after Mr. Twit had been up the ladder and smeared the tree with Hugtite, 4 little boys crept into the garden to look at the monkeys. They didn't care about the thistles and stinging nettles, not when there were monkeys to look at. After a while they got tired of looking at the monkeys, so they explored further into the garden and found the ladder leaning against a big dead tree. They decided to climb it for fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh dear. The next morning, when Mr. Twit went out to collect the birds, he found 4 miserable little boys sitting in the tree, stuck as tight as they could be by the seats of their pants to the branches. There were no birds, because the presence of the boys had scared them away. Mr. Twit was furious. "As there's no birds for my pie tonight," he shouted, "then it'll have to be boys instead." He started to climb the ladder. "Boy pie might be better than bird pie," he went on, grinning horribly. "More meat, and not so many tiny little bones." The boys were terrified. "He's going to boil us," one cried. "He'll stew us alive," wailed the second one. "He'll cook us with carrots," cried the third. But the 4th little boy, who had more sense than the others, whispered, "Listen, I've just had an idea. We're only stuck by the seats of our pants. So quick, unbutton your pants and slip out of them, and fall to the ground." Mr. Twit had reached the top of the ladder and was just about to make a grab for the nearest boy when all of a sudden they tumbled out of the tree and ran for home with their naked bottoms winking in the sun. And there's the pictures of what they're up to. The Great Upside Down Monkey Circus. Ooh. See the monkeys? Now for the monkeys. The 4 monkeys in the cage in the garden were all one family. They were Mugglewump and his wife and their 2 small children. But what on earth were Mr. and Mrs. Twit doing with monkeys in their garden? Well, in the old days, they'd have both worked in a circus as monkey trainers. They used to teach monkeys to do tricks and do dress up in human clothes and to smoke pipes and all the rest of that nonsense. Today, although they were retired, Mr. Twit still wanted to train his monkeys. It was his dream that one day he would own the first great upside-down monkey circus in the world. That meant that the monkeys had to do everything upside down. They had to dance upside down, on their hands with their feet in the air. They had to play football upside down, which is quite tricky. They had to balance one on top of the other upside down, with Mugglewump at the bottom and the smallest baby monkey at the very top. They even had to eat and drink upside down, and that is not as easy as it sounds. Food and water has to go up your throat instead of down it. In fact, it's almost impossible, but the monkeys simply had to do it, otherwise they got nothing. All this sounds pretty silly to you and to me. It sounded pretty silly to the monkeys too. They absolutely hated having to do this upside down nonsense day after day. It made them giddy standing on their heads for hours on end. Sometimes the 2 small monkey children would faint with so much blood going to their head. But Mr. Twit didn't care about that. He kept them practising for 6 hours every day, and if they didn't do as they were told, Mrs. Twit would soon come running with her beastly stick.